Hello there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond with yet another video, and this time I'm doing an anthology on Canada's Worst Driver. I won't lie, I'm a big Canada's Worst Driver fan. I usually watch every season, since I fell in love with it back in, 2006, watching repeats of season 2 on CTV and all that, around Christmas time, and then basically I'm like, oh, why not? I should watch Canada's Worst Driver. This looks cool. And it's been on every year since. So I'm going to be telling you about all Canada's Worst Driver from 1 to 13. I know season 14 its finale is today. That's why I'm doing it now on December 17th, 2018. Hopefully you didn't hear that. But anyway, I'm going to go through each and every season of Canada's Worst Driver. I will be telling you like the 3 finalists and who was the fan favorite and did the person judged the worst in Canada actually deserve it. So season 1 was based on winter driving, and it took place in 2005 at CFB Picton, with the final 3 having a road test in Montreal. And the 3 finalists for season 1 were Heather, a old lady from Medicine Hat, Alberta, with her husband Ernie, who used to be a trucker. Heather having issues with her eyes and all that, even though she wears glasses. Madalena, a girl that has a lot of tricks in her. Basically, she's kind of immature in a sense, because she thinks about fashion and with Jen and the kindness of strangers and all that over her own driving. And then you got Chris Ferguson, who had very much been inexperienced as a driver, despite having his license for a while. So the final 3 took their road test. Heather seemed to do well in Montreal. Madalena, unfortunately, her attention was not that great, and she didn't do as well as Heather. And of course, Madalena had a hangover, which made things worse for her. And Chris, unfortunately, had a terrible drive that led to a couple of trips into a bus shelter. So logically, Chris got booted. Chris lost Canada's Worst Driver because of his inexperience and all that. So basically, that's it. But the contestant judged to be the fan favorite has to be Manuel, who unfortunately overthinks everything about driving. So basically, Manuel can speak 6 languages. He's a computer expert. Unfortunately, driving just makes him overthink, and he survives not getting to the final 3. He was the last one before they went with the thing. And now you got Canada's Worst Driver 2, which was October through December 2006. They made it at CFB Borden. They decided to make it summer driving. And basically, it was 8 episodes. Season 2 is also known for the first major expulsion of a contestant, as Colin Shepard from Whitby basically used his police foundations course training to his advantage to get him out of speeding tickets and all that. He just didn't learn, and everyone thought that Colin basically was just showing off and all that. His real purpose is to be on national TV. So basically, they expelled him, and we don't know what ever happened to him after. So regardless of what happens, the final 3 ended up being Henrietta from Prince Edward Island. Well, was from Prince Edward Island, who unfortunately had vision problems, and she quit almost every challenge in the show. Michael, who was over analytical, like Manuel from season 1 from Vancouver, and Shannon, who was a reckless person, but decides to stop doing that because she is going to be a mother-to-be. So anyway, so those 3 came in. Shannon did pretty good in her final drive. Michael didn't do so well. He overanalyzed a few things, and Henrietta unfortunately broke down during her drive. But she did persevere, and there were a few people in subsequent seasons that didn't even finish the road test, but she finished it. Unfortunately, she was named Canada's Worst Driver. Fan favorite has got to be probably It's not really a fan favorite, but I say Henrietta was basically a fan favorite because, of her age and driving and all that. And in season 3, from October to December 2007, they went to the ghost town of Edgar, Ontario. This season's focus was extreme driving and all of that. And they decided to make a new rule that the driver's licenses would be confiscated instead of keys, because when you pulled into the rehab center, you had to leave your keys, but now it's your driver's license. And the final 3 was Jason from Vancouver, who I believe was the first candidate to be openly gay because his boyfriend nominated him. And unfortunately, his boyfriend, Adrian, actually ended up having to leave. No, sorry, not boyfriend, husband. Adrian had to leave because of his sister's wedding. Shelby, who is the fan favorite, who drives very slow from Calgary, he was a fan favorite. His demeanor, he's finally getting his learning how to ride a bicycle and all that. That was pretty cool. Yeah, he was fan. And Jennifer, who basically had done a lot of things. Accident prone and basically a hit and run artist. Her boyfriend passed away, who nominated her, John Park, passed away a couple years ago, I believe. So Jason, unfortunately, his biggest problem was that he lost Canada's Worst Driver because he practically stopped in the middle of Highway 400, which you definitely can't do. Stopping in the middle of the highway is bad enough, but it's the 400. So Jason does actually promise not to drive again, and he sticks to it. And Shelby, who was runner-up, because Jennifer was the last graduate. Shelby actually ended up being Canada's Worst Driver per diem, and basically drove Jason home in the cool bus. That's funny. I love that. So yeah, so Shelby was the fan favorite. Season 4 was at the Old Guelph prison. The actual initial drive that everyone left was in Kitchener. The only time. Fuck. Bring back to Kitchener. So in 2008, we brought some people. The final 3 were all women. And that's the only time in history that this happened. And, of course, season 14 hasn't done that. So it was Ashley, Emily, and Amy. Amy, unfortunately, was such a terrible driver that she doesn't have confidence. And the worst part about Amy is that she had a business that depended on a weekly commute to pick up supplies. And she has a lot of issues. Emily, because she's inexperienced. Unfortunately, one of her biggest problems was that she was an immigrant from China 4 years ago, and she didn't have a lot of training. And Ashley, who looked good, but she was mother of a cute infant son, Diesel, and wanted to graduate not to miss his first birthday. She basically was a road rager from Medicine Hat with her F-350 and all that. Her big truck and all that. So, I forgot. Well, season 4 was known for the first expulsion via medical leave because Donna from Saint Marie, who was a fearless driver, that basically she does drink and drive. And she runs through red lights a lot. Basically, her son nominated her for everyone's safety. Donna had an angina attack during the water tank can't challenge. When something popped out in front of her, she had angina. She had medication, thank goodness for that. So unfortunately, Donna does end up quitting, being forced to leave, and she gets mad at CWD for that because they warned everyone about her. So Ashley ended up losing, despite the fact that Ashley was one of the decent drivers, that she almost graduated 3 times in the season. The problem was her relationship with Brian was just too toxic for her. Emily, thankfully, got runner-up. Amy was definitely not Canada's Worst Driver. It's on her final drive. So, fan favorite, I would probably have to say, I'm not sure. I would say Tegan because even though he's 18 years old, they thought he would be reckless. He's not. He's more of a cautious driver. He does a wobble with his dangerous driving, and a young and nervous driver. Thankfully, thankfully for Tegan, he survived being out of the top 3. Season 5 was the first season I really watched consecutively. Like, I really watched it. That was in 2009, and I liked Season 5. It was one of my favorite episodes. So basically, the episode was coinciding with a new law in Ontario with the prohibiting the use of handheld electronic devices while driving. Basically, Atlantic Canada, Quebec, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan also did the same. I liked Season 5. I liked all the characters and all that. The final 3 were Angelina from Sudbury, a stay-at-home girlfriend who basically freaked out a lot. More on that later. Mike Butt, who actually is Brad Butt's nephew, because Brad Butt tweeted after Mike was on Canada's Worst Driver that basically that was his nephew. Brad Butt from Portuguese. That's amazing. And Arun is an immigrant from Mumbai going to University of Windsor. Unfortunately, he has a habit of driving in 2 lanes, which is bad. I honestly think that the fan favorite has to be Father Giles. I mean, Father Giles, a Roman Catholic priest who's too conservative on the roads. You know, he always had his traditional thumbs up for everybody and all that. And he graduated and everyone gave him the thumbs up. He ended up 5th place. There were a few other ones. Season 5 was also memorable because in episode 3, Melissa from St. John, who had problems, really had a lot of problems, but it was mostly because her common law husband, Will, verbally abuses her when she's driving. Andrew finally takes it upon himself to interfere in Will and Melissa's relationship, quote unquote, and basically makes a recording for Will about how bad he is behind being a nominator and being a passenger. So logically, Will started crying and all that, and he hates the CD because he uses it, saying that practically that he'll listen to it to remember what type of jerk he was. And thankfully, Melissa's driving was there, and Melissa graduated that episode. Unfortunately, it also marked Crystal, who was basically nominated for 8 people. That was a record, I think, at the time. I think it's tied or something like that. Crystal had to leave the show because her brother-in-law died in a motorcycle crash because the driver, the car who hit him, the driver was distracted or something like that, or didn't yield, I should say. Crystal basically takes upon things. And that episode was memorable because Crystal ended up getting a contact lens over one eye that would compensate. And that actually helped her drive better. She could have been a nice candidate to cancel her driving habit issues. So basically, it was down to the final 3. Mike Butt really couldn't graduate. And let's not forget that Mike had cars that had like duct tape over the windows and all that. God. That's terrible. Angelina, unfortunately, has a panic attack. She does finish the course, but unfortunately, her panic attacks are big. And Andrew said that she was the worst driver based on her skills. But, of course, later on, we would realize, once she gets to Canada's Worst Driver Ever, and I'll talk about that, obviously, that she basically ends up, that her big issues are not driving, it's something else. So anyway, what about Arun? Well, Arun had one of the best final drives of all time. 0 violations. That's only been done twice since. I think Diane in season 8 and someone else had a perfect drive, but I can't remember who. But Arun was just flawless. No violations, no nothing. He definitely was not Canada's worst driver. And Cam Woolley even admitted that he didn't have faith in Arun, but Arun becomes the poster boy for why rehab is so important. And now on to Canada's Worst Driver 6 from Dunville. This would be, I think this is the last season that Dunville doesn't, I forget, sorry, I'm losing my head. I think Dunville is where they have it every year. So anyway, you have your 8 guys. It was going to Lance, Dale, and Brad. Brad had a lot of problems because of accidents. Unfortunately, Brad is now forced to drive because his wife doesn't have use of her right arm because of a farming accident, and his father-in-law's health is failing. So he ends up third. The fan favorite, I have to say, is Paul from Hollywood. And this is strange. Paul has had troubles with cars and all that. But the problem is that because he lost 5 of his friends in collisions and all that. And the ironic thing is that Paul was a former stunt motorcyclist, and he drives a motorcycle almost all the time. But because with the fact that he probably shouldn't drive a bike in the middle of winter, that's huge. So yeah, he was a fan favorite. So Brad ended up third, Dale second, and we would meet Dale later on in a few more seasons. But basically, she tries to learn, but unfortunately, she has problems. 6 people nominated her, and one of her nephews, John, was the one who had her thing. So Dale, unfortunately, has a terrible road test, which would almost automatically give her the title of Canada's Worst Driver. However, Lance from Ottawa becomes Canada's Worst Driver because of his anxiety while driving behind the wheel of a car, like driving. He has 2 different personalities, it seems. A fun personality on the outside, but inside the car, he's nervous. He vomits on command. At times, I thought that Lance had an auto tic, which he would vomit. It seems like he would vomit while being in a car all the time, that basically it would just be automatic to him and all that. And of course, Lance was named Canada's Worst Driver because he didn't want to deal with his mental issues. And he also didn't finish the road test, which obviously is an automatic fail. Season 7. Well, of course, Dunville is home to season 7. Came upon in 2011. You had 8 contestants. The finals. Well, I didn't really watch a lot of this, I will admit. Aaron, I believe, is my fan favorite from Calgary. Unfortunately, he was victimized by an accident that left him in a coma in 2005, and basically his driving skills deteriorated. And of course, unfortunately, Aaron is not the same physically. And so I think he kind of speaks not completely perfectly. So Aaron thankfully gets out of it. He does end up in the final 3, but he does do well enough. Sly, who we would see a couple years later, is a technophile that basically likes technology and all that. It is a necessity to be a delivery man, but, you know, the GPS he can put anywhere in his car, with hands-free and all that. So, unfortunately, Sly ends up being diagnosed with nonverbal learning disorder, which impedes his ability to learn. And Shirley, God bless her soul, from Cape Breton, ended up being Canada's Worst Driver because of issues with driving on a highway. Shirley, in fact, makes a statement that when she started driving, horse and buggies were still on the road. That's funny. But anyway, Shirley, unfortunately, suffers through a lot of problems. She just can't get anywhere past small towns and all that. She can't drive on the highway. At times, I thought her daughter, Janice, who was her nominator, was just a fucking bitch. But she toned down the bitchiness a bit. Shirley, unfortunately, is named Canada's Worst Driver. Sly got lucky. Season 8 was in 2012. You had 8 people and all that. There's not really a fan favorite. Well, the fan favorite. My fan favorite would definitely be Diane. This would be Diane. Diane's a fan favorite because, you know, she has troubles driving, and she has issues with her husband Stefan and all that. But she perseveres and does pretty well. But season 8 is the first and only time, hopefully, that we've seen Canada's Worst Driver be split. One Canada's Worst Driver is Flora from Edmonton, who had a lot of training. Well, she's from China and all that. But she relies on her husband and nominator, Frank, for driving advice all the time. Basically, Frank just nags her too much, and she lets Frank scare the shit out of her. Unfortunately, her sight and all that. And no, it's not the stereotype about Asian drivers that got her. And Kevin, unfortunately, was named Canada's Worst Driver based on the fact that he has no vision in his right eye. He has a glass eye, but he doesn't compensate for his lack of vision on his right side. That's why he can't really drive that well. So anyway, Kevin gets named Canada's Worst Driver along with Flora, although Kevin should have been named the worst. And then the greatest season of newbies, Canada's Worst Driver ever. The greatest season in my mind. Well, I mean, I've watched almost every season before season 9, so I have a bit of a bias. So basically, they brought back 9 former contestants, and the only season had 9 contestants. Although a few years later there would be 9, but I'll tell you why. 4 of them graduated out of 8 losers. And there were a couple of kind of disqualifications, but I'll go through it. So basically 6 of them returned with their original nominators, and 2 joined the new nominators, while Chris didn't have a nominator. So anyway, every season from 1 to 8, except for season 4, were represented. Well, Shelby was there. Shelby was the pro idiom winner of Canada's Worst Driver 3 when Jason gave up driving for good. But Shelby is a much better driver. He decides to come back for the heck of it. Chris, who is the first ever Canada's Worst Driver, comes back. But unfortunately, for some people, in 8 years since, he's been a better driver. He doesn't have his wife with him. Henrietta, from Canada's Worst Driver 2, being the worst, she came back due to a terrible road test and refusing to admit fault from her mistakes. Unfortunately, she doesn't really drive that much. And at 68, she was the oldest ever contestant. Sly comes back. He got lucky in season 7, all that. And his brother-in-law said that basically Shirley's bad performance on the road test got Sly out of being Canada's Worst Driver. Unfortunately, Sly hasn't changed much. Angelina came back after season 5. She only had 1 challenge completed, which being the worst in history and all that. And all that. Dale came back. She got lucky because Lance in season 6 couldn't finish his drive. Unfortunately, Danny comes in for John because John refused to drive with her because she's trying to defy the critics. Shirley comes back. She said she's improved, and even Janice said that it was just a fluke. And Kevin came back from season 8. Unfortunately, Kevin had an accident, which ironically was the first day, on the same day as Canada's Worst Driver premiered. Unfortunately, Michael comes back from Canada's Worst Driver 2. Unfortunately, the road test ruined him. His nominator and longtime friend Yolanda comes in because Eric had health issues. Believes that Michael's driving is terrible. So anyway, give you play-by-play on everybody. Henrietta was disqualified after season 1 because she doesn't drive much anymore, and Andy drives her everywhere. So she basically is told that basically, I lost my train of thought. Basically, she's not driving anymore. It would be a waste of time and all that. Chris ended up graduating from the first season only because Chris basically improved, and he was the first one, so obviously he had the best opportunity. So Chris was not named Candace Worst Driver. Shirley in episode 2 ended up graduating from the rehab center, thank goodness for her holiness and all that. Angelina in season 4 was the next to go. Unfortunately, Angelina's psychological makeup just blew up in her face. She reveals that she usually was on anxiety medication, which she used in season 5's road test. Unfortunately for her, the doctor retired and she's on a waiting list in Sudbury. And I bet you Sudbury cringed when they heard about that and changed their thing. Unfortunately, she goes through a 50-day psychiatric treatment, and that episode does end with Andrew saying that if you or someone else needs mental health, try to go to a Canadian mental health advocate. Shelby ends up being 5th place, graduating in season 6. Basically, he's not named Candace Worst Driver. And the strange thing is, on episode 7, there's 4 people left: Kevin, Dale, Sly, and Michael. And everyone's thinking Michael's got the best shot to avoid being the worst 3. But surprise, surprise, Dale left the show in episode 7. It was revealed that Dale took a cab home, and when her husband wasn't home, she punched her hand through a glass window, severing a lot of tendons in her hand. Everyone thought that Dale basically was trying to walk out on the show because she was worried she was going to be named Candace Worst Driver. Unfortunately, that meant Michael had to participate in the final 3, quote unquote. So Michael, thankfully, is not named Canada's Worst Driver ever because of his stuff. Sly ends up being 3rd place because Sly didn't learn much. And of course, you're thinking, hang on a second, what the hell are you talking about? 3rd place, there were 3 people, and Michael was not Canada's Worst Driver because Dale was actually named one of the final 2 with Kevin, because basically Dale walked out of the show. So they practically thought that Dale was just trying to put her way out of being named Canada's Worst Driver. The vote is split on Dale or Kevin being Canada's Worst Driver. Unfortunately, Kevin's road test and his complete inability to compensate for his right side, and also for being a little bit of a nuisance at times on Canada's Worst Driver. There's a few letters and all that people don't realize and all that. Lost his goodwill. He was named Canada's Worst Driver ever. Dale almost did it. That was almost creepy. Anyway, on to season 10 from 2014. The final 3 were Siam, Jason, and Cheney. Ironically, all 3 finalists, if you watch the final episode of Canada's Worst Driver 10, all said they had young sons depending on them being good. Jason, unfortunately, is driving, but he has terrible vision and all that. So he just has a lot of vision and spatial awareness problems. Cheney is 27, and basically she has a lot of problems. Well, she's from Prince Island, but moved to Calgary. She's a selfie queen who takes tons of selfies with her kids, with her young son and all that. And Siam, who was originally from Morocco, had a pile-up in 2010. Unfortunately, she couldn't keep everything going. She was supposed to be on Canada's Worst Driver 8, but basically she took the opportunity in season 10. And Siam's young son was cute and saying that, I hope my mommy graduates so I can do so much more. Such a good kid. So anyway, Jason, with his new vision awareness, is not named Canada's Worst Driver. Siam gets lucky because Cheney unfortunately makes the fatal mistake of not taking medication while at Canada's Worst Driver. And she wouldn't be allowed to. She refused to take the medication and all that. And because of that, her problems were tenfold. And Cam told her that basically, if you have medication, if you're not taking it, if you get in an accident and you kill someone, that's just the same as a normal person. So basically, Cheney's lack of medication and focus cost her dearly, and she was in Canada's Worst Driver 10. Then we go Canada's Worst Driver 11, 3 years ago, excuse me. What am I thinking? The final three were Jillian, Polly, and Shalom. Now, this episode marked a creepiness. There were 9 contestants on the show. Oh, crap. I didn't say who was a fan favorite. Season 9 would definitely be Shelby. Season 10's fan favorite. I don't think there was a fan favorite in Season 10. Season 11. I would say the Hoffman brothers, Shalom and Shmuel, came in. The brothers who live together have different issues with their driving. Shmuel has road rage and Shalom is easily distracted. They nominate each other, and that is creepy. But they both got in and made it 9 episodes. Shmuel graduated in the 4th episode, but he's decided to stay behind to help his brother out. Oh, fuck, I forgot to mention in Season 6 that Scott was kicked out after the 2nd episode because of his recklessness, and his friend Danny, who he shares an insurance policy with, actually ended up canceling the insurance policy, meaning that Scott didn't have an insurance ride, and Scott would be kicked out of Canada's Worst Driver. So anyway, we had Shalom, Polly, and Jillian. Jillian, Polly was licensed for 41 years, but unfortunately she has a lot of flaws and all that, and is very ignorant. Polly, unfortunately, is named Canada's Worst Driver, runner-up, although some people think she should have been Canada's Worst Driver, because Jillian, the second contestant from Newfoundland, where young husband is from, just has a lot of confidence issues. So much so, Jillian couldn't complete the road test, and she couldn't do anything with GPS. Driving by herself, she just couldn't do it. And that made her fail, and that made her Canada's Worst Driver easily in Season 11. Canada's Worst Season 12 was notorious for Crystal's big issues with things and all that. Season 12's fan favorite, in my mind, has to be Tyler. Tyler's a welder. Unfortunately, he has a lot of stress from driving, and he actually drinks and drives, and actually admits to the problem of that. And Tyler actually had a brain injury from a past traffic collision, and it affected his driving ability. Well, Mike from Ottawa, who was also in Season 12, had the same thing. He had a medical accident on that. He was lucky to take it back. But Mike did end up being Canada's Worst Driver. Avoided being Canada's Worst Driver, I should say. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, we were down to 3. And, Tyler was fan favorite because he liked Tyler's shirt. He liked Andrew's shirts, and he just had a lot of energy in that. Tyler did end up in the final 3, unfortunately, with Daniela and Crystal. So Tyler ended up 3rd. Runner-up was Daniela, which pissed me off because guess where Daniela was from? You guessed it, my hometown, Kitchener, Ontario. You cannot be serious. In Season 12, you should have seen my face when I learned that, first episode from Kitchener, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Sorry, I have stuff in my glasses, hair in my glasses. But anyway, I'm like, are you kidding me? Daniela, unfortunately, her lack of experience on highways and her scared driving would probably give her Canada's Worst Driver Season 12. Unfortunately, that would not happen because Crystal, God bless her soul, well, she's not dead, but you know what I mean, was so terrible. She had attitude problems. She just went to war on everyone. Her nominated her brother Stephen, the panel, Andrew. She was terrible. And the worst part is she, at 28 years old at the time, was considered a millennial. And I actually went on Facebook saying that she's going to make millennials look like pieces of shit. And some people are hatred of millennials because of this fact. Not all millennials are bad people. I'm technically a millennial because I was born in 1985. I mean, you look at me. I don't drive because I have a fear of driving. And I can't afford a car or insurance, of course, whatever you want to fucking call it. And, I'm not like that. I'm not, privileged and all that shit. I mean, I'm unemployed, for almost 4 years. I've tried to make ends meet and all that. I do what I can. Like, I'm a nice guy. I don't hate a lot of people. But regardless of what happens, Crystal's attitude basically cost her dearly. Now, there was a silver lining, though, because Crystal actually was finally diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and she used it to her advantage because she is a mentor for mental health now, and she actually is a better driver. She learned that basically rehab helped her deal with her issues. And, of course, the last season, prior to this one, Canada's Worst Driver 13, Jessica Temperia, or whatever they call it. You had the final 8. The fan favorite was Adam. Unfortunately, he's from Kitchener, Ontario, like Daniela was. And unfortunately, for the second straight year, we had a final 3 contestant from Kitchener. Pissed me right off. Adam had 4 straight times spending on the short list, and he could have graduated, but he failed to see Brianna, Travis, and Shane graduate over him. So Adam did end up in 3rd place. Thankfully for her, thankfully for him, Adam becomes like a fan favorite and all that. And his next goal after his fear of driving has been stopped, ride a Ferris wheel, which Andrew tells him to go to Niagara Falls to do that. Ashley ended up in 2nd place. She was from Newfoundland. And here's the weird thing. Guess who her nominator was? Fellow Newfie and season 11 loser, or winner, if you will, Jillian, who actually has really improved as a driver since Canada's Worst Driver for 2 years. So Ashley ended up being in 2nd place, and she did okay. She did almost run into a pedestrian, which would have cost her dearly. But unfortunately, she got saved by the #1 worst driver of all time, driver of season 13, and that was Melanie from Oromonto, New Brunswick. I think it's by Fredericton, I think I found out. Melanie had a lot of problems. She was 27, she had 4 kids already, which is amazing. She was divorced, her husband left. She was the first person to drive with a modified car because of this. And the cherry on the sundae is that 2 of her 4 kids have special needs. Her oldest, that being a girl, is nonverbal and has to be in a wheelchair. One of her twin boys, I can assume they're twins because they look the same. One of her twin boys is autistic, probably nonverbal autistic, I don't know, or Aspie, like myself. And, of course, she has a big girl. And, of course, personally for me, I felt like Melanie was a sad sack because, you know, she's 27, she has 4 kids, and 2 with special needs, and I'm like, what type of asshole divorces a woman with special needs kids? In this day and age, he would be fucking beating the shit out of. Some people would probably just beat the shit out of him. I'm not condoning violence, I'm just saying that that's the truth. Anyhow, so... yeah, I thought Melanie was going to get through it. Final 3, I'm like, she has to do it. She has the most to lose if she gets named Canada's Worst Driver because her 4 kids need her, and 2 of them might not drive because of their disability. You never know. Well, the oldest is nonverbal, so I don't know about driving while being nonverbal. That's not really right. But anyway, Melanie unfortunately has had poor behavior and all that, and very negative. And it's actually confirmed that Melanie basically may have used this opportunity on purpose to get away from her kids because Melanie was partying at times, and I think 4th or 5th episode she was out due to exhaustion or sickness. But my God, that's just making you weird, and that might get her kids taken away from her. You never know. So, like, YouTube has the video of season 13 finale, and and a lot of people are crapping on Melanie, basically saying that she knew what she was doing. She knew that if she failed and became Canada's Worst Driver, she could use it as leverage and get other people to help her drive. And the worst part about this with Melanie is that Melanie has to drive legitimately, even though she doesn't have a job. But she has to drive legitimately because her 2 kids have to go to the Halifax Children's Hospital to get special treatment and special appointments like 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm like, why the fuck is the New Brunswick government not building a children's hospital to help with autism and all that crap in the province, or at least closer to her, so that, maybe an hour, 2-hour drive, she wouldn't have to take the 5-hour drive to Halifax from Oromonto. And I said, I hope New Brunswick squirmed in their seats. I hope the government squirmed in their seats and did something about it. But a lot of people said that she should move to Nova Scotia to be closer to the children's hospital, which would make things better. Unfortunately, Melanie obviously was in Canada's first driver. She was given lessons and all of that because mostly she couldn't work. I mean, I don't know. I think she could work, and then somebody could take care of her kids. And a lot of people online basically tell her that basically, why can't she just get like a medical transportation thing? Obviously, she doesn't make enough money, and but my theory is that the divorce was a massive trigger. I mean, she relied on her husband to help with the 4 kids. I mean, fuck, why would a guy leave her 4 kids and 2 with special needs? Personally, I would just confront him and, whatever. But anyway, I said that it's probably just the divorce got into her head and basically manifested itself in bad driving and all that. I don't think she ever got over the divorce. Wow, it's been 41 minutes. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you watched through the whole thing, because it was a spectacular ride. And hopefully Canada's Worst Driver 14 is memorable for the right reasons.